All right, let's get started. So my name's Atocil. I've been in Brave and Nullsec as a whole for just about a year now. I think it's closer to 10 or 11 months, but let's just call it a year. I took this class when I first arrived in Brave. I've also been in Brave for my entire time in Nullsec. I took this class probably the first night or two that I made it out to catch with Brave, and it helped me a ton. So now that I've got my feet under me a little bit, I figured I would go ahead and teach it and hopefully help a few of you out. So, first things first, let's make sure we get everyone into Fleet. So, if you are here and you're not in Fleet and you don't know how to get into Fleet, let's cover that. On the left side of your game menu, docked up or in station, you should see three chevrons stacked on top of each other. If you hover over there, it'll just say fleet, create, find, and join fleets. Go ahead and click that, and it should bring up a list of fleets. You're just going to want to select any fleets available to you. Sort by name. Mine is called Nullsec Intro Course or Nullsec 101, something like that. I honestly forget what I named it. So go ahead and join up with that. I'm just going to make sure we've got everyone here. I've got buckets, I've got coil, I don't have Dak, but Dak knows what he's doing. Declan, I've got you. Gravin, I've got you. In the Wasteland, let's make sure we get you and I think Renka into Fleet are the only two I'm missing. I'm trying to think of the best way to get you guys into Fleet, because you can't X up in Fleet to tell me you're not there. I'll just convo you guys. And Renka, I don't see you logged in, at least not on the character name I have here. That's right. We'll get started, and I can walk you guys through it in game chat while we're talking. All right. So now that you guys are all here, hopefully you guys are all in GE near the soda factory. And go ahead and undock for me, just because some of this stuff is best done in space, specifically some of our intel tools. So once you're out in space, actually, this is a great time to mention this. Go ahead and you're going to want to do control space here, which will actually stop your ship. It's a really important thing, which we'll get to a little later when I talk about tethering. So for now, just trust me and stop your ship with control space, and we'll circle back on why we're having you do that in a little bit here. So the first section of the course is just going to be on Intel tools. So as you probably already know, in Nullsec, anything can shoot you that wants to shoot you. That's different from HighSec, kind of different from LowSec, especially on stations. I know in LowSec out in the middle of space, people can shoot you, but nonetheless, out here, everything can shoot you pretty much everywhere you are. So the best way to stay alive is just to know what's out there and how to avoid it. So one of those things is your overview. Here in Brave, we recommend Z-TAC-S overview. I'll link their channel in Fleet here. As soon as I find it, this would have been a good thing to have pulled up beforehand, of course. God damn it. Does someone have the ZS overview channel? They can link for me. Never mind. Let's do this. So in your chat section, there should be a plus button. Right next to all of your chat tabs, there should be another plus. Cool. So Ariana and Dak both just linked it for me because they're wonderful people. Go ahead and click on that to join that chat channel. And then what you're going to do is, this is the chat channel, like I mentioned, for the ZS overview. It's the one we recommend in Brave. It's just really good and really easy. So if you scroll down a bit, there are directions up, but I'll walk you guys through this. This is what you should be doing if you haven't set up an overview for Nullsec yet. You're going to scroll down to where it says packs, and then it has a bunch of links. First thing you're going to do is you're going to click ZS Core, which is very recommended. It's required, in fact, as it says directly next to it. And that actually should change the portion on the right hand of your screen. And then on the bottom, you'll need to select a layout. I prefer ZS Standard 1BL. You can play around with them, figure out what you like, what you don't like, stuff like that. But we recommend ZS Overview, and it's a really good thing for finding what's around you in space. Hopefully you all have that loaded by now. Tell me if you need time to catch up. Cool. So I'm going to assume everyone's either past the overview setup or already knows what they're doing. So you should see 6 or so tabs. The first one is a little airplane icon. What that is that's all of your warp arounds, your travel stuff. So you've got stuff like all of our stations on there. You've got the gates out. You've got the sun. You've got just a whole bunch of other stuff you can warp to, and is generally useful for traveling around through systems. So if you're just trying to burn through quick and you're just trying to move around, that's where you want to be. Then the next tab is combat. What combat is useful for is, well, combat. It does include a lot of the same stuff that you'll see with the airplane tab overview, but if we were on grid with neutral pilots, which are basically the enemies in Nullsec, you'd also see all of their ships and such things like that. Targets should be blank. Targets, I believe, is specifically only neutral ships. So instead of combat where it's got everything, targets will just have the neutral ships on them. Miscellaneous is, well, it's miscellaneous. It's going to have stuff like wrecks. So if you actually switch to your miscellaneous tab right now, you should see about 29 kilometers away from me, at least, should be on grid at least for all of you, you'll see a wreck of light. Then the next tab is friendly. That's pretty self-explanatory. If you click that, you'll see all sorts of friendly ships. And then there's warp outs. Warp outs are important. We'll get to why they're important later, but warp outs are basically for when you need to get out of a fight fast. Click on that tab, pick something, and warp to it. It'll get you off grid. It's not something at least super common. The enemies will typically have to spend at least a minute or so figuring out exactly where you went, which can be super useful for getting you out of there. So those are your overview tabs. You should definitely use your overview. It is invaluable for seeing what is in your immediate area. Another thing for showing what's in your immediate area is your brackets. So you can turn your brackets on by, in your overview, in the top left, there's a hamburger menu. You're going to right click on the hamburger menu and click show all brackets. You definitely want to do that for stuff like combat. Some people think you should do it for all of your tabs. I personally just do it for combat. And what it does is it'll show you in space. So it'll actually show you little icons for everything. Basically, everything in space now has an icon in space that you can click to get to it. I don't particularly have a better description than that for it, and I know that's not the best description, so I apologize, but you definitely want it on for combat. It'll let you see everything in space. Not in a list, but actually like where it is in space in real time. The last thing that I at least use for knowing kind of what's exactly around me is the tactical overlay. So that is going to be useful for, it basically just gives more information on the stuff around you and how it relates to your ship, because it centers on your ship and it exists in space. So the way we're going to turn that on is if you go to the left of your shield, or your ship hit points and capacitor and stuff like that, you see 2 rows of icons. One has, on the far left, it has 4 icons, and then the other one has 3. The tactical overlay is the second one down in the far left column. If you hover over it, it's tactical overlay. You can also toggle it with Control D. I want everyone to go ahead and toggle that on for me. Cool, that shouldn't take long, so I'm going to continue. You should be able to see, if you're undocked at least, exactly what that did for you. You see concentric circles with numbers on them. Those are kilometers distance from your ship. You should see a red circle as well. If you're not in your capsule, you should see a red circle going around its dashes. That is how far out you can lock someone. Locking, of course, being targeting effectively. And then if there's like an enemy ship on here, if you have something selected, even friendly ships, if you have them selected, you can kind of see how they're moving. It'll put a blue arrow coming out of the nose of their ship in the direction that they're going. Super, super useful for combat. I didn't know how to use it at first when I started flying, but someone told me, just keep it on, stuff will start making sense and you'll start using it. And my God, it couldn't be truer. I just recommend you fly with it on and you will slowly, piece by piece, make sense of what's actually going on with it. All right, I'm going to pause for questions because I know that was a ton of information. Shoot them in fleet chat, shoot them in comms here, and I will answer everything about specifically intel tools or good to use tools for seeing what's immediately near you in space. Go ahead. All right, I'll keep moving then. So next thing, just one tough crowd indeed. Just want to make sure. So next step out from what's immediately near you in space is going to be what's in system with you. What we're going to use for that is we're going to use local chat. So if you already have this done, obviously feel free to ignore it. Otherwise, if you see in your chat tabs, you should see like Alliance, Corp, Fleet, and Local. If Local's still in with the other ones, let's fix that. Click on Local and drag it out into like the middle of your screen. It's not going to stay in the middle of your screen, don't worry. What you're going to do then is you're going to basically resize it to be as narrow as possible. And then you're going to, in the top left, right under where it says local, there's a little icon that looks like 3 people huddled together. You're going to click that. You're going to make sure that show member list and show compact member list are both checked. Now what you should see is on the left-hand side, you should actually see local chat. If you ever want to actually read it, you can make it bigger. But the really important thing here is the member list. You should see a whole bunch of blue, a little bit of purple, a little bit of green. Those are all friendly people, which is good. You also should see, let me see, there's 1 neutral in system. They are gray in some, mine is a gray equal sign. Their name is second class slave. So that's useful because you know that there's 1 pilot that isn't friendly to you in the current system you're in. So in GETAC 8JV, there's at least 1 neutral, well, not at least, there's exactly 1 neutral pilot. That is incredibly useful information if you're out crabbing in a ship that isn't really meant for PvP. You can watch that member list, and if something that's not friendly to you comes in, you can go ahead and dock up at a station and not lose your ship. That's incredibly useful. It is honestly probably the best in tool that we have out here in Nullsec. But I did promise you that this wasn't going to live in the middle of your screen. So what you're going to do is you're going to drag it down towards your other chat channels, and do this however you want. I personally have it so that like the member list of local is just adjacent, just to the right of my other chat channels. Organize it however you want it organized, but just make sure that you can see your member list for the local system. One other tip for that is you can select all. If you click in the member list and just hit Control A, you'll actually highlight everyone in system. And then that just helps for really easily and really quickly seeing if anyone new comes into system, they won't be highlighted, but everyone else will be highlighted. Cool. One tick out then from your local system is surrounding systems. So there's two main tools that we use for that. First thing we use for that is Mumble. You're already there. I know you have it configured. Super fantastic. When you're in Fleet or in space, there's two chat channels that you should have. If you are in Catch, you should be in Catch 1, which is where Catch Standing Fleet is out of, and they will be reporting and talking about stuff that's around in space and dangerous. So that's a really good place to be. If you're down in Impasse because you're an Impasse person or you're crabbing out there, just be in Impasse 2, which is their lobby. It's the exact same thing. It's just the Impasse Standing Fleet rather than the Catch Standing Fleet. If you get tackled in something that can survive for a little bit, you'll want to yell to the corresponding channel for where you are. And if you can survive long enough, people will come save you. It'll be fantastic. Especially in Catch, people love saving people. So definitely try and be in Mumble. Even if you're muting and deafening yourself for a little bit, just try and be in Mumble. It's a really, really good practice. Cool. That's Mumble. Next up is our Intel channels. Intel channels are awesome. They're maintained pretty regularly. Basically what it is it's a chat channel in which people report if there are neutrals in systems. So just like you did when you were joining the ZS overview, one of the options I gave at least is on your chat tabs, there's a plus section. Go ahead and click that. It'll pop up a channels dialog. In there will be a search bar. Do me a favor and type int, INT, period, Catch. And that will pull up the Catch Intel channel. And it's super useful. There's not currently, of course, if you just joined, there's not a whole ton in there. But if you stay in there, you'll kind of see people will put like the name of a person and then the name of a system, or like, for example, GETAC 8JV spike 30 plus. That means 30 plus neutral pilots just jumped in to GETAC 8JV. You want to be aware of that, of course. There's also the Intel map. Intelmap.xyz is the URL for it. Let me link that in Fleet as well. That's actually a website. It's basically an aggregation of int.catch and int.impasse, the chat channels, but it'll make pretty flashing systems on an actual map in a web browser, and it'll play an alarm sound if someone enters a system that you care about. So that's another good tool. It's not necessarily in scope of this course, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it exists. It's really cool. The other thing is Dscan. Dscan's a little advanced, but basically if you mash V, a window will pop up telling you what's in space near you. It's a little advanced. I didn't understand it at first, but Dscan's cool. You should look more into it. I'm not going to talk too much about it tonight in the interest of time. Cool. That's all I have for Intel tools. So I'm going to pause here and once again open for questions on anything Intel related. How to stay alive by just avoiding the bad people in general. All right, you guys are fun. Oh, how do you read this Intel map? Cool. So let's grab it. Let me open it up as well. This is probably a good thing for everyone to follow along with. So go to intelmap.xyz in your browser. And then basically just sign in with Eve. It is safe, I guarantee you. So guys, go ahead and dock back up in Fleet Chat. Jinx Dojo has offered to give anyone that needs one a free ship, or ships even. Just go ahead and trade that character that just spoke in Fleet Chat if you need some ships. You have to be docked up to do that, so we'll just dock up for the meantime because we're going to go over Intel map anyways. So buckets, in the top right of the Intel map, there's a region menu. So go ahead and click that and then find Ketch in the list and go ahead and click that. This will bring up a map of Ketch and then a column on the right-hand side. Let me know when you see that, Buckets. I'm just going to talk to Buckets here because he's the one with the question. All of you are welcome to ask further clarifying questions and follow along. Cool. So now that you've got Ketch popped up, let's specifically look at the right-hand column. The right-hand column is a message-for-message transcription of the int.catch channel I just had you guys join. So that makes sense. And then the actual map, let's talk about how to read the map because that's the unique part. Basically, the closer to red the color is, the more recent there have been neutrals reported in that system. One note is this is just reporting. This doesn't actually monitor who's there. This is just when they were reported. So if someone hops into a system and then waits there for an hour, but they're only reported when they jump in, they won't show up on that very long. It's just the last time they were reported. So if we look around, VTAC 3, which is in the middle-ish of the map, is bright red because something was reported there a minute ago. Whereas BTAC 3, which is just one system up from VTAC 3, was 7 minutes ago. So it's yellow. And then HYTAC, which is down and right of VTAC 3, is a little bit green because it was 13 minutes. And then a little bit further to the right, there's ATAC 803L. That was 19 minutes ago, so it's even greener. All the gray systems is, I think, nothing in the last 30 minutes or so. Nothing in the last 20 minutes. Perfect. Thanks, Ariana. So that's the Intel map and how to read it at its base state. The most useful thing you can do with the Intel map is if you click some systems, it will narrow the map and the channel on the right to just the systems that you've clicked. And then you can click them again to unselect them. Oh, yeah, thanks, Buckets. TAC means dash. I don't know why, but it is. So TAC means dash. Sorry. I should have clarified that at the beginning.
It's just more clear.
That's fair. Hi, Jinx.
Hey.
So that's kind of how to read the Intel map. So for example, I didn't have 4NBN way on the south was just flashing red. I didn't have that system selected, so I didn't even get a notification for that, and I don't see it in my right-hand side. That's the real pro way to use Intel map, is select some systems that you care about, and then you'll only get notified about those. Does that make sense, Buckets? Perfect. Cool. Any other questions on Intel? I'll give it like 30 seconds. Even if your question takes longer than that to type, just like let me know you have a question so I don't wait too long. Cool. I don't know if that was 30 seconds. I don't have a timer. Good enough. Now we're going to work on like a little bit of how to get around. So first thing there is kind of docking and undocking. So docking is obviously at stations. You all know how to dock by now. We came out of a station, you went back into it to trade Jinx. We've got docking down and like how to do it. But one important thing that happens in this happens everywhere, but it's especially important in Nullsec, in my opinion, is tethering. So if everyone undocks for me, and then stops their ship again, and then wait like 10 seconds, I think it is, and above your ship's hit points, there should come up like a little blue icon that kind of looks like a funnel with a ball over it, I guess. That means you're tethered. Tethering means that you are completely untargetable. Not only can someone not hit you, no one can target you, which is a really big deal. And when you're on tether, you're really safe. The one exception of that is if you are off the structure. So let's do this. I'm going to have some fun with this. I'm going to warp all of you to somewhere, and then we're going to go figure out how to find out when you're not tethered correctly, because that's a really important thing to know. Cool. So you're going to be warped to this. Just take it. It's going to be a great time. You'll land somewhere. It's relatively safe, hopefully. And then we'll all warp back together as well. I don't know why I'm doing this in a very large ship, because that's going to make me very slow. Oh well, here we are. Oh god, it's such a long warp too. So basically, what this exercise goes to show is that when you warp to a citadel, citadel being a Fortizar, an Athanor, basically all the structures in space that aren't NPC stations, when you warp to one of those, you're placed on the very outside of its tether range. That's really, really important, because while people can't target you, they can run their ship into your ship to move your ship. You don't particularly want that to happen to your ship, especially if you're very near on the outside of tether range, because they can literally just bump you out of its range and then target you. So again, let's head back to the soda factory, and you'll see what I mean here. So when you land, you'll kind of notice that you are on a little bit farther away from the station, and you're right on the outside of tether range. And you don't really want to stay there. And I'll kind of give you a few tips on how you can make sure you're not staying there so you don't get caught and bumped off of tether. Again, my apologies for doing this in a ship that takes a lot longer to warp than you guys. That was a mistake on my part. Nonetheless, I'm landing now. So now we're all in this wonderful little ball right on the outside. You see that ring of lights that's kind of right through where we are? That's the tether range of the Citadel. You're outside of it, you're not tethered. So that's bad. Two things you can do. You can, if you have like a bookmark around the Citadel that's a little closer to it, you can approach that bookmark. But what I prefer to do is I just dock up and then undock, because that puts you much, much closer to the Citadel. Obviously, you don't even need to undock, but there are reasons eventually for wanting to be in space, but not on the edge of tether range. So feel free to use that. I just dock and then I undock, and you kind of saw my ship in the last like 10 seconds or so. Now I'm like right by the Citadel. Very hard to bump from here, whereas where you guys all were, super easy to just come and bump you out of there. So that's how to tether safely. Yeah. Next up is tax. So tack is short. That's annoying because tack is dash when I'm talking about systems, but tack is also used for like a tactical bookmark. which is super confusing, but context usually gives it away. But attack is a bookmark, typically a set number of kilometers off of a gate or a citadel or another point of interest, basically. So where we were, when I warped the whole fleet over to that gate, we were on a tactical bookmark 200 kilometers off of gate. Tacticals can be super invaluable. What they allow you to do is avoid gate camps. So gate camps are a thing everywhere, but a very large thing in Nullsec, where interdiction bubbles are a thing. Interdiction bubbles are basically just bubbles that a special type of ship can put up, and you can't warp when you're inside of one. And they'll stop your warp if you try and warp through one. They're a big deal, but they're typically put around a gate. Very few people put them 200 kilometers off the gate. So what you do is if you're traveling through systems and you see that there's neutrals in that system, if you have a tactical on the gate that you're trying to get to, warp to that, not the gate. Because if you get there and you see that it's clear, as long as your tactical is like more than 150 kilometers off the gate, you can warp from your tactical to the gate. So you lose almost no time that way. But the flip side of that is if the gate's not clear, you're not landing right on the gate so they can just kill you. That's a really big one. Tacticals are great. Using tacks, that's using tacks. You can make tacks simply by moving away from the gate. So if you didn't already know, if you double click in space, your ship will move towards where you clicked. Try it now, but again, do make sure to stop your ship so you don't drift off tether. Remember earlier when I said control space, stop your ship? That's important to figure out why later. It's tethering. Don't drift off tether range. Don't be bad. Cool. So that's tactical bookmarks on a gate. There's another type of bookmark that you want sometimes, which is called a safe. Safe is basically a bookmark in the middle of nowhere in the system that no one else has but you. You make those by basically, while you're in like a warp, hit Control B and just save your location as a bookmark. I'm not going to get too in depth. There's a lot of people who like making safes that are very, very safe, much more safe than what I just described, but those are almost like for a Nullsec 102 class, and I don't want to get too much information at you guys because I know this is already a ton. But you can make them while you're warping between things by just hitting Control B and saving it. Or if you're out exploring or something like that and you're running like a relic or a data site, if you just bookmark yourself while you're there, that site will despawn, and then you have a safe. So those are really good ways to make safes. The last type of bookmark that you should have is an Instadoc bookmark. Reasons for this are sometimes when you warp to a station or a citadel, you can't dock based on how you warped in. You don't want that, because as we just saw, warping in pushes you kind of to the outside of its range. You don't want to be out there. If you're trying to get there to dock, you want to be like right there. So for that, we use Instadocs. Instadocs are basically bookmarks that you create. You undock from the place, you hit Control Space to stop, and then you hit Control B to create a bookmark at your location. That will always be an Instadoc. So for stations that you use frequently, especially those that are kind of in risky spots, you definitely want to make an Instadoc. Feel free to practice here in GE on the Soda Factory if you don't already have one. That way you can familiarize yourself with the process. But Instadocs are super, super useful and have saved me probably 2 or 3 times. I'm once again going to pause for questions. So shoot them in the fleet chat, shoot them in actual comms, do your thing. Cool. No worries. You guys are just on the ball and absorbing it all perfectly, which I'm proud of. Or I'm just that great of a teacher. One of the two. It's probably you guys. Someone just bumped me. See, yes, that's what can happen to you if you're untethered. Whoever just bumped me, that can happen. Cool. So I'm just going to touch a little bit on how to make some ISK, which is Eve money, of course. The most common way I think that most people use is ratting. Ratting is basically just a Eve term for killing enemy NPCs that spawn at certain sites. So you take a ship designed for ratting. Don't take a random ship. We have all sorts of corp fits for this. Take a ship designed for ratting and go to certain types of sites and kill the NPCs there. You'll get a bounty. People will... Sorry, not people will. They'll get a bounty. Every 15 minutes, your bounty is paid out after the corporation that you're in, Brave in this case, takes their share of tax. Brave, I think, has a 10% tax on ratting. So 10% of your bounties does go to the corp. Taxes are great. They allow the corp to provide stuff like the free ships that some of you have gotten. They provide SRP. They provide infrastructure upgrades. They provide the citadels that we're able to dock at. Taxes are fantastic. Every corporation would starve without them, and there's no point in being in a corporation without taxes. So don't get too grumpy about the 10% tax. The progression for that is typically you'll start in a cruiser. Sorry, you'll start in a destroyer, and you'll do what's called belt ratting, which is just ratting in a asteroid belt, of which there are many in most systems. From there, you go to a cruiser, typically a Vexor or a Vexor Navy issue. Those can run proper combat a little bit better than the... And then after that, you get into a whole lot of stuff. There's a whole bunch of risky and blingy type ships you can fly to do ratting. They make more money, but they're very expensive and very skill intensive. So don't worry about those yet. There's all sorts of videos if you go on the Brave wiki, which hopefully you all know about. If not, I'll link it in probably the Dojo Slack, because I don't think link's actually going to work here. But the Brave Dojo has all sorts of stuff on like how to belt rat or how to rat in a Vexor or stuff like that. Also shout out, Dojo gives out free Vexors to new bros once you can fly them. Someone correct me if that program has ended. I don't believe it has, though. So that's ratting. Then there's exploration. Exploration is how I tended to, when I first joined Brave, make a bunch of my money. Brave is in literally the best space in the game for exploration. You should totally take advantage of it. Also bonus, it's really low skill point intensive. You can do it with like a day-old character, and Dojo will give you free ships to do it in. What it involves is going system to system, using probes to scan down relic and data sites, going to those sites, and hacking the cans at those sites. Once again, the wiki has all sorts of guides on this. From there, you can go to gas huffing. Gas huffing is, well, it's quite literally huffing gas. You're going to do it in a venture, much like you'll mine. We'll get to mining in a second. But instead of mining rocks, you're going to huff gas clouds. Gas is then used in drug production. If Jinx is still here, shout out to Jinx. Jinx makes a ton of drugs. Jinx isn't here anymore, though. But that can be really, really good money. It's probably better than mining in a venture. The problem is the skill book for gas mining costs 50 million ISK. So it's a little bit of a high entry cost, but it doesn't require a lot of skill points once you have the book, and it can be really profitable. Then there's mining, like I just alluded to. That's taking a mining ship. First mining ship is a venture. From there, you're going to go to a procurer or a different barge, and you basically just mine rocks. There's more progression from there, but the two new bro friendly ones are the venture and then the barges. If you really enjoy mining, I think it's about a 20-day train into a mining barge, but they are so much better. Moon mining especially get in on as new people. It's special type of mining. There's a website that'll tell you when it comes up. All this can be found on the wiki. But it's basically just really good ore, and it can make you so much money. That's mining. Then there's the whole I want to say like the non-space ways of making money, which is buckets. It's the same ships. Sorry, should have clarified. So ventures and the barges do both types of mining. The moon ore is just worth more. So you can go in your normal ships if you're into mining. Just take your best mining ship and head on out to a moon when it shows up. I believe the website for it is goo.bravecollective.com currently. So that's a timer board. They're cool. Do that. It's fun. There's usually people around that'll do it as well with you. Cool. Then there are the group of activities that can make money that I like to think of as kind of like non-in-space activities. They're kind of more passive and in the background. Those are industry, importing, and PI. Industry is cool. Industry is building ships and the things that go onto them and the things that are fired from them. So you can build ship hulls, you can build ammo, you can build modules, you can build rigs, you can build guns, micro warp drives, webs, all sorts of stuff. Everything in Eve is built, which I think is really cool about Eve. So to do that, you basically need to get a blueprint. There's two types of blueprints, copies and originals. There's a Brave Dojo program that actually hands out free copies. So look that up, also on the wiki. Or I think like plus blueprints in Slack. So go ahead and use that as well. They'll give you free blueprints. Then all you need to do is source the materials that go into building it, build it, and list it on the market to sell it. Super easy. It's a nice way to take, like, let's say you're mining and you don't want to just sell your ore. You can actually make something with that ore and make like a little bit extra money off of it than you would have just selling it to the market as ore, right? So that's cool. It gets more complicated from there, but the first level of industry is get your free blueprints, use ore and the materials to make stuff, and then move on from there. Importing is a really, really good way to make passive income. The one problem there is for new bros, it basically requires ISK to make ISK. Concept of importing is that stuff's expensive in Nullsec and it's cheap in HighSec. So what you do is you buy a bunch of stuff in HighSec, ship it yourself or have someone else ship it to Nullsec for you, and then sell it here. You can typically make some good money doing that, again, but it's all based on how much money you can put into it. You can only buy so much stuff for what you have the money for, but it can make some really good money. Then there's PI. PI is cool. It basically is using the planets in space to passively harvest resources from them. It's fairly complicated, and I'm not a PI expert by any means. There's a PI Slack channel on Slack. Of course, that's where a Slack channel is. There's a PI Slack channel, all sorts of people like that. Once again, Dojo will give you free PI stuff to get started, and they have a fantastic guide on the wiki. The one drawback to PI is that it is Omega only. If you're an Alpha, you cannot do PI, which is fine. Just know that going in. But it's kind of just a cool way to get some passive income. You set it up. You have to collect like anywhere from like once a day to every week. And it just kind of harvests stuff from that planet that you can then turn around and sell. Again, recommend checking out the PI Slack channel or the guide on the wiki if you have more questions about PI. All right, I'm once again going to stop here and ask or open for questions on anything related to money or making it. I've done pretty much everything on that list except PI personally, so feel free to just shoot your questions at me and I hopefully answer. Cool. How do you get BPOs around here if possible? So it is possible. Typically you will buy them from HighSec. Though most BPOs, especially when there's a free blueprint program, are not worth it because when you buy a BPO, you have to research it, right? So fair enough, good call out here. Blueprints have material efficiency and time efficiency. Basically, each one of them will take a portion off the materials needed to make something or the time required to make something. Time efficiency has a max of 20%, material efficiency has a max of 10%. Almost everything the dojo gives out for free is perfect. 10% machine material reduction, 20% time reduction. BPOs would not only take a while to get up to that level, you've also just got to pay for them. So buy them in HiSec and have them imported if you ever get to that point. But for now, definitely take advantage of the Dojo service. They have pretty much everything that you'd want to build out here. So use that for free and then import them from HiSec if you need them. Cool? Cool. Yeah, of course, no problem. Any other questions? Anything related to making money or how you get it? Yeah, let me know. I can always come back to them later, and like I said, I'll open up for Q&A at the end. So, let's talk more about gate camps. Gate camps are hard, and that was one of the things I struggled with most when I came out to Nullsec. Gate camps are annoying. What will happen is you'll be moving through space, you'll want to go somewhere, you'll jump into a system, and once you get into that system, you'll notice that there's a bubble up around the gate, which will prevent you from warping, and there's like 4 ships waiting there ready to kill you. It's fantastic, of course. 2 main options. 1, try and get out of the bubble and warp to where you want to go to. Or 2, go back. Go back the way you came and say, nope, not worth it, not going to make it out, I'm done. Let's cover the simple one first, which is going back the way you came. Basically, you're just going to click jump on the gate that you just came through, turn on your prop mod, which is your propulsion mod, either an MWD, a micro warp drive, or an afterburner, and pray to the gods that you make it. There's not a whole lot else to do in that scenario if that's the decision you make. The key portion there is if it's a gate camp and you're burning back, most likely the people camping the gate will try and shoot you on that side and try and kill you before you can get back. If they do that and they don't succeed, they're aggressed, which means they can't jump through to the next gate for like a minute. So that can be a really good way to get out, is if you can make it back to the gate that you just came through without dying, you're pretty much scot-free because they probably can't chase you. If they choose not to shoot you on that side and instead choose to chase you to the other side, that's a whole nother thing, but that's fine. That's the option of burning back. The other option is try and get out of the bubble. I wouldn't really recommend this unless you have a micro warp drive and a cloak on your ship. That's known as the MWD cloak trick. It's basically you align to where you want to go. Aligning we'll get to in a second. You align to where you want to go. You press your cloak and your micro warp drive at the same time. And then once you're out of the bubble, you decloak and warp. That's really hard to get via like me talking about it. So when we're done, or when you want to learn about it, go ahead and Google MWD cloak trick in Eve or something like that, and you'll see articles and videos and whatnot. It'll be much easier to learn it from me. But the way it works is basically when you're cloaked, you can't be targeted. So you're going to cloak and hit your micro warp drive. That's going to move you very fast out of the bubble, which is one benefit. But the other benefit is that when you decloak and are ready to warp, your micro warp drive will end. And that will mean that your maximum speed will drop. In Eve, in order to warp, you need to be at 75% max speed. If you have your micro warp drive on and then it goes off, you're like at 150 to 200% speed already, which means as long as you're pointing in the right direction, which is aligning, you can warp immediately. So, like I said, it's kind of hard to describe via speech, but definitely check out the Google resources available to you on the MWD cloak trick. It's fantastic. Tactical bookmarks. Try to avoid gate camps in the current system by using tactical bookmarks. And then the other thing to note is that interceptors are immune to warp bubbles. Travel interceptors are immune to warp bubbles. It's a T2 frigate ship, which means you'll have to have any of the racial frigates to 5 before you can fly one, but that's fine. And they're just straight up immune to those bubbles. They're really, really useful, probably the single most useful T2 ship to fly the soonest. In my opinion, obviously depends on what you do, but for me and a lot of people who fly, it's interceptors. It will be like, don't get me wrong, it's not going to be a short train. It's going to be like close to a month of training on a new account, but they're so, so good. Cool. I'm going to stop here and take Q&A, just general, on stuff I covered, stuff I didn't cover, who my favorite, I don't know, anything you can ask. But I want to try and keep this under an hour, so I'll leave about 10 minutes for Q&A here. And I can hang out longer, but I want to make sure you get time, and I did say it'd be under an hour, so I want to allow some time within that hour for Q&A. We can cover it, Buckets. I do just want to make sure that if anyone has to go at the hour that I advertise, that they have a chance to ask their questions. But if no one else has questions, I'll move right into standing/generic fleet stuff. I can talk for like another 2 hours, to be honest. I just do want to make sure that if anyone has to leave right away, they have a chance to ask questions. Cool. Here we go. So standing fleet is the fleet that you should always be in if you're in space. There's one for catch, there's one for impasse, kind of like we covered earlier with the chat channels. You join them the same way you joined my fleet, but instead of joining Nullsec introductory course or whatever you joined today, it's going to be Brave Catch Standing or Brave Impasse Standing. Super simple. You join those. Those are the fleets that fight anything and everything that comes into their respective region. You'll want to talk about neutrals that you're seeing around there in fleet as well as in int, because a lot of people just pay attention to fleet chat when they're looking for their fights. Want to let people know what you can hear or what you can see. You can also put like X's, W's, and R's and $ into fleet for various things. Those will all be in the message of the day. I'm going to omit them for now to not overwhelm you. But read the MOTD of the standing fleet and you'll understand what all those mean. It is really useful if you're putting like W's or X's in fleet, which either means I'm tackled or I have tackle on someone. To put the system you're in as well. Catch standing fleet covers like 50 different systems. Help the rest of the fleet out. If you're putting W's or X's in fleet, also put your system name, even if it's just like GE. You know, you don't need to write out the full system. You don't need to drag it down, but just write that you're in GE so that people know where you are. Cool. I don't know a ton else to talk about standing fleet. I can talk about generic being in a regular fleet type stuff. Do you have specific questions, Buckets, on standing fleet? Beyond that, standing fleet's kind of just disorganized. There's no FC, there's no anchoring. You just kind of fly around and kill stuff. So whatever questions you have, I'm happy to answer. But other than that, I'll move on to regular fleet stuff. Oh yeah, sorry, Coil. So aligning. Aligning is super useful for a lot of stuff. Aligning is going to be used in proper fleets. It's going to be used in avoiding gate camps. It's going to be used in small gang roams. You can use it on your own apart from that. And it's really simple. It's basically just approaching what you want to eventually warp to. So let's do this. If everyone's undocked, I'm going to have everyone align to the sun. Okay? So if you go to, in your overview, the airplane tab, there's one that's clearly the sun because it has a sun icon. I want everyone to align to that. There's 3 ways you can align to it. On your overview or in space, you can right-click it and click Align To. You can hold A and click it, or you can use the orbital menu to go bottom left, and there's an Align To option there. Okay, the sun was a very bad idea because the Fortizar is in the way of that. Everyone align to... There's a Raitaru in this system named Dunk's Inventorium. Go ahead and find that in your overview. Raitaru kind of looks like a square with things coming out from on top and underneath it. And it's called GE TAC 8JV TAC Dunk's Inventorium. Go ahead and align to that. Let's test that one. I'm going to give you guys like 10 seconds here, and then I'm going to warp us all there, and we'll see who passed. Cool. So this will be a fleet warp to Dunk's Inventorium, and 4 of us were aligned. Perfect. So that is super duper useful, again, for a whole bunch of stuff. 5 of us were aligned. 1 of us was a little slow, which probably is just accounted to finding it in the overview. So that's perfect, guys. Aligning is going to be the most useful in proper fleets. Because if you notice, the 4 of us that were aligned when I initiated the warp all warped together. And that's really, really, really useful for fleets because it makes sure that the whole fleet lands at the same exact time. If you're not aligned, you're not going to be in warp as fast. If you're the last person aligned and the FC, Fleet Commander, warps the fleet before you're aligned, but everyone else is aligned, everyone else is going to leave you behind. Which means if there's enemies on grid, you are their only target. You will die. So make sure to align to what your FC aligns tells you to align to. And the best way of seeing that is looking at the FC's broadcasts. So broadcasts will show up in 2 places. And I'll help you find these and then we'll test it once again. So broadcasts typically pop to the top of your overview. That's the easiest way, but not always the most reliable way because it's Eve and not everything works perfectly in Eve. Welcome. So let me try and broadcast something. I'm going to broadcast an align to. So I just broadcasted align to GE TAC 8JV Bob the Contractor's hovel. It probably popped to the top of your overview, in which case you can once again either hold A and click it, right click and align to, or use the radial menu to align to it. It might be approach. Approaching and align to are the exact same thing, in case anyone's wondering. So if it popped to the top of your overview, that's one way. But like I said, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it just won't pop up there. Sometimes it'll take 5 seconds, which is way too late to align to it, stuff like that. The other best way to see it is if you go to your fleet window, which is the one that opens via chevrons on the left-hand side, or you still have open from when you joined my fleet, there's a history tab. If you click history there, you should see that at 4:00:35, I broadcasted an align to. That is the foolproof way to align to something. It will always pop up there. So then I'm going to warp the fleet there. And we all got it. So you see how all of us are here in the exact same warp tunnel. Even though Coil is actually in a bigger ship, which aligns and warps slower than us. Because we were all aligned and we took a fleet warp together, we all stayed together. Super important. Cannot understate how important that is. You'll see other stuff in broadcasts too, because I'm just going to move into fleet stuff at this point. So broadcasting is the best way an FC communicates with you guys. They'll also yell it at you probably about 4 times for everything they want you to do. But broadcast is the official way of putting it in game. They'll broadcast, target this other ship, align to here, warp to here, attack this, tackle this, stuff like that. You'll see all of it in history, and you can color code it if you click the hamburger menu in your fleet window and find broadcast settings. You can select what you see in history, and then on the right-hand side of that, you can color code it. It can be helpful. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, though. Not because I can't, but because it's personal preference. So that's broadcasting and broadcast history. Aligning. Other thing on aligning. Keep your prop mod off. Again, your prop mod is your micro warp drive or your afterburner. Don't have them on when you're aligning. It's bad. It makes you take longer to align, and that's the opposite of what aligning is for. Obviously, the exception to that is when the FC specifically tells you to align with your prop mod on. Then put your prop mod on, of course. Aligning is also important, not in like the same way, but aligning, specifically align time, is really useful for like getting off of gate camps that aren't bubbled. Because if you align in under 2 seconds, it is the case that almost every ship in the game cannot lock you fast enough to shoot you before you've warped off and you're invulnerable. So faster aligns are better, and more agile ships are less likely to get killed on a gate. Let's see, we covered fleet warps a little bit. One thing I didn't mention is, again, when the 5 of us warped together, even though Coil's caracal is a little slower than the rest of us, we all warp at Coil speed just to make sure that we all stay together. It takes the lowest speed and warps us with that one. So buckets, insta lock is considered 2 seconds, under 2 seconds, and you're insta warp, which means you cannot be insta locked in like 99.9 seconds. I'm not going to pretend that there's not ships out there that, if they're fit very, very specifically with very, very good skills, can't sometimes catch something under 2 seconds. But it's really, really hard, requires absurdly good reaction time, an absurdly well-fit ship, and absurdly good skills, and even then it's not 100%. So yes and no, almost, unfortunately. You should very, 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 very rarely get caught under 2 seconds. And the other time that you do, you kind of just throw your hands up in the air and go, well, oh well. Cool. It is possible to flag yourself exempt from a fleet warp. So if you, for some reason, don't want to warp with the fleet, say you are a scout, right? Say for some reason you're scouting for the fleet, you don't want to take fleet warps because they might be warping to a place that you're moving past. So feel free to flag yourself exempt. The way you're going to flag yourself exempt is, once again, the hamburger menu in the top left of your fleet window. The third option down, maybe second for some of you, is flag exempt from fleet warp. Once you're flag exempt from fleet warp, you don't take fleet warps, of course. Feel free to practice it now. I don't plan on doing a whole ton of fleet warping anymore, so if you want to try that, feel free. You shouldn't really do it unless you're doing it for a reason that you know. You generally want to take fleet warps. They're good. It's how you keep the fleet together. Next most important thing, in my opinion, in a fleet is gate status. The FC will say gate is green or gate is red or hold on the gate, stuff like that. So I'm going to try and take you through the most common things you'll hear about gates in a fleet. First of all, gate is green or jump on contact means the second you come out of warp, take the gate. Jump through to the next system. That's gate is green or jump on contact or green on contact, green on land. Basically some form of jump, green, and immediately is basically take the gate. Red, obviously being the opposite. If you are landing or taking a fleet warp and your FC says the gate is red, do not take the gate. It's hard to overstate how important that can be in some scenarios, because there might be something like where you guys are trying to get the jump on someone that's going to be looking at their local window and jumping out the second they see a bunch of people coming in. It can be because your FC wants to make sure that the people are in the right positions. You can really screw up a fleet by taking a gate when you're not supposed to. And in fact, a lot of times if you take a gate early, the FC will just completely ignore you, even if you're going to die on the other side of that gate. And they're just not going to care because it's not worth risking the whole fleet over. So try and pay attention when your FC gates says gates are green or red, and listen to them because that's important. Next up is anchoring. So anchoring's cool. Anchoring is basically making sure that you stay with the fleet when you're not warping. So let's say that there was a fight right here. You don't want to be like moving around on your own deal. So you're going to anchor up. Anchoring up is typically done on your FC, and you're typically going to keep at range or orbit. Your FC will typically tell you which one you want to do. If you don't know, feel free to ask in fleet chat. They both have their different uses. They're a little bit tactical. So if your FC says anchor up, they'll probably say like keep at 500 or orbit at 500. What that means is keep at range 500 meters, or keep at range 1,000 meters, or whatever the FC says you to do, or orbit. Those are the options. Keep at range or orbit. Some FCs have you approach them, but not very many. And that one you already know how to do. So I think I see all of you anchoring up on me, which is good. Cool. There's a section in here on the guide that I'm following for this course that says, why is the FC yelling at me? The answer is there's intricate plans that you're probably messing up without knowing them. What that I think is basically trying to get across is your FC is trying to manage a lot. They're not mad at you. They just don't have a lot of time to explain themselves, so sometimes they get stressed and yell. Don't take it personally. They are not upset with you. Cool. So targeting, your FC will broadcast like, let's see here, broadcast target on that. You can't actually target that because it's way out of your range, but I just broadcasted something to target it. The quickest way to target something is hold control and click it on your overview, or in broadcast history. Both will work. If your FC says target that, lock that up, stuff like that. Control, click. Done. Easy. If you want to untarget something, it's control shift click. Easy enough. If you ever hear broadcast for reps in a fleet, that basically is telling you to broadcast when you need repairs. The way you do that is on your fleet window. On the bottom, there's a whole bunch of icons. And if you click them, they broadcast different things. The most frequent one that you'll be broadcasting is shield. I just broadcasted it now, and you should see that I need shield. The reason the one that you're going to need most is shield is because we are a shield alliance and a shield coalition. That means all of our doctrine ships, for the most part, fly shield. That's why you're going to broadcast that one the most. It is a courtesy, though not a requirement, to once you're done, once you're holding, or once the enemy is no longer targeting you, to broadcast in position. It's the little dude in a circle. Wouldn't worry about that for now, but it exists. The timing for broadcasting is also important. You want to broadcast for shield when you are either red boxed by one enemy or yellow boxed by the whole enemy fleet. Not exactly the whole, right? Like if there's one person not locking you, you don't need to. But don't broadcast when like one person has targeted you. That's not... Logi will be mad at you. Logi is healers if you've played another MMO. Yellow boxing is important. Yellow boxing is on your overview. Yeah, thank you for asking the question. So red box versus yellow box is really important in EVE. Yellow box is what happens when an enemy ship has you targeted. And what it looks like is both on your overview and in space, their name and their ship icon will have yellow brackets around it that form a box, hence yellow box. It turns red when they actually aggress against you. It can be tackling you, it can be webbing you, it can be shooting you, it can be nuding you out, it can be all sorts of things. If they've activated what's considered an offensive module against you, the box will turn red. That's yellow boxing versus red boxing. So thank you for asking the clarifying question. I definitely missed talking about that. So if the whole enemy fleet, or at least most of it, has you yellow boxed, broadcast for shield. If anyone in the enemy fleet is shooting you, broadcast for shield. Do not wait until the whole fleet is shooting you. Because what the likely case is your Logi pilots do not have you locked up, and it will take them longer to lock you up than it'll take for you to die, and you're gone. So you want to do it before you get red boxed by the whole fleet, before you get shot by the whole enemy fleet. Does that make sense? I know that's a lot, and I blabber. So ask clarifying questions if you need to. Cool. So that's that. Drones. A lot of our ships in Brave fly with drones. If you have a ship that has drones right now, you should see a little window on your screen that says drones. It has drones in bay and drones in space. To launch your drones, you simply drag them from drones in bay out into the middle of space. So I just launched one of my drones, and now I see this little purple friend following me around. If you have drones, go ahead and launch them. It's not a big deal if you don't. Most of what I'm going to cover will be fine without it. So there's typically two options for your drones. You can either assist them to what's called a drone bunny, or you can manually assign them to an enemy. The way you're going to assist them is once you have drones in space, under your drones on your drones window, right-click, assist, and then pick whoever the bunny is. You'll know because if you're in a fleet where you're assisting your drones, the FC will say, "This is your drone bunny, please assist your drones to them." That's how you know how to do that. All of this, again, feel free to just ask in fleet if it comes up and you've forgotten. The other option, again, is manually assigning them to go attack an enemy. To do that, you just hit F, you hold F, and you click the enemy that you have locked. You do have to have them locked to do that, but you just lock them and hit F. I don't even think you don't F and click. You lock them, select them, and then hit F, and your drones will engage that person. Make sense? Cool. I assume no questions means it makes sense. If not, ask them and I'll get back to them. Other things that are important is starbursting. Sometimes an FC will call for you to starburst. That's kind of unclear at first, right? I didn't know what starbursting was the first time I heard it. Starbursting basically means warp somewhere. Not the same place as the rest of the fleet. Just go. Just warp off the battlefield, make it hard for the enemy fleet to track us all down. They're going to have to split up. They're not going to... Stuff like that. So if they say starburst, just pick a random thing in the warp out tab of your overview and warp to it. That's the whole thing. The reason that can happen is if we're just losing a fight horribly The FC can tell you to starburst because that's the best chance of getting the most people out because they can only chase down a few of you. You might be unlucky. You're most likely going to be lucky. So that's starbursting. Only do it when the FC calls for it. Don't do that other than that. Cool. Last thing that I think I want to talk about for Fleet before I once again open it up for questions is ECM. As a new bro, you're probably going to find yourself flying E-War at some point. E-War is really easy to fly. Each race has an E-War ship, and they're really easy to fly as a new bro, and they're really, really annoying to the enemy fleet. There's 4 different kinds. Minmatar is good at target painting, which basically makes the enemy take more damage. Pretty simple. Galente, and you do that in a Vigil for Minmatar. Galente, E-War ship, is the Maulus. That does damps. Damps basically reduce the targeting range and the sensor strength of the enemy. Targeting range is what it sounds like. It's how far out they can lock an enemy. Well, in your case, how far out the enemy can lock your friends. And then sensor resolution is how fast they lock. Caldari has proper ECM. I don't know what it stands for. Sorry. But basically it makes them drop their locks on their targets. So if I have an enemy targeted and the enemy ECMs me, I lose... Oh, thanks, Ariana. I lose my lock on that target. I can't shoot them. I can't assign my drones to them. I've unlocked them entirely. With ECM, though, you can shoot back at the person jamming you. That was a recent change in case you're coming back to the game. You can shoot the ship ECMing you. That's important. You also hear ECM called jams. Again, that's what Caldari is good at, and they do it in a Griffin. Finally, there's Amar. Amar E-War ship is the Crucifier. It's good at weapon disruptors. Weapon disruptors make it hard for the enemy to track you or their optimal range. So it's kind of similar to Galente, where they reduce the targeting range and the sensor strength. But in this case, instead of affecting your lock ability for both range and speed, it's your actual weapons themselves. So this won't reduce how far someone can lock you, but it will make their guns not work out as far and not be able to track you as fast. So similar to what Galente does, but a little different in that it acts on the actual guns, not on the targeting systems. So that's just a quick overview of the 4 different types of E-War and the races that fly them. But at the end of the day, they all kind of boil down to being flown the same. Basically, they're really fragile ships, so they're easy to kill, and they're really annoying, which is a deadly combination to be in, because that means the enemy will spend the 2 seconds it's going to take to kill you all the time. So flying E-War is a little tricky. It's not hard, it's just tricky, and you have to know how. I had it best described to me like a middle school dance. You show up late, you keep your distance, and you run away if anything looks at you. I'm going to break that down a little bit. Show up late. As an ECM ship, you do not want to be the first one on the battlefield, because again, you're annoying. You want to show up about 5 seconds late to the fight, because at that point, the enemy fleet has probably picked their first target or so. You don't want to be the first target, you'll die. Guaranteed. So you want to show up a little late. You want to keep your distance. Every ECM ship works out really, really far. Like, at my skills, like 100 kilometers plus. I don't quite remember what it is for Nubro, but it's far. So you don't want to warp to the fight at 0. Hopefully you've all seen warping at range, either via right-clicking warp to at or in the radio menu. you want to warp at like what range your ECM works out to. So for me, when I'm in a vigil, I think my target painter can go out to like 100 kilometers. So when I'm warping to a fight as a vigil, I wait about 5 seconds for everyone else to land, and then I warp to the FC at around 100 kilometers. If I need to burn in a little bit or burn out a little bit, that's fine. I just want to end up roughly where I'm supposed to. So make sure you know the range of the EWAR module you're trying to use, and then warp at that range. And then the last part of my way to remember it is run away if someone looks at you. If someone so much as yellow boxes you, warp off and warp back in. That seems annoying. It's fine. If nothing else, you made the enemy take time to lock you, not someone else, think they were going to kill you, and then you got away. Then you can come back and keep being annoying. I love flying EWAR. They're fine. EWAR, like Ariana said, Ariana is an alt of Gravenheg, who is one of the Dojo members as well. And he speaks the truth. He knows what he's talking about. EWAR is fantastic. The way I look at EWAR is it is a force multiplier of the fleet. You can't win a fight with nothing but EWAR, but your EWAR will make the whole fleet so much more effective. Target painting makes the whole fleet do more damage to what they're attacking. That's invaluable. That's more damage. And oftentimes a single EWAR ship can add more DPS via target painting than you would flying like an actual DPS ship in some cases. In the carries, the damps are the enemy's Logi's nightmare. They hate them. They can't lock out very far, and it takes them time to lock, which, especially if your FC is switching targets a lot, means that Logi can't get the reps to the enemy fleet soon at all. ECM is obviously just absurdly annoying because you can't lock things, which every ship in the battle needs to do. And then the Crucifier, the Amar tracking disruption really hurts the enemy DPS ships. General concept with ECM is you want to spread it out. Or sorry, EWAR. I keep saying ECM. I mean EWAR almost always. The concept with EWAR is you want to spread it out a little bit. So don't put, like if you have 3 sensor dampeners, don't put them all on the same ship. They have diminishing returns. Target 3 things, put 1 on each, and make 3 people's lives mild hell rather than making 1 person's life serious hell, if that makes sense. Same thing goes for ECM. Same thing goes for really everything. They all have diminishing returns. Don't do that. There's a ton more to EWAR, but let's just keep it at that to not go too long. That is absolutely everything on my list, both fleet and non-fleet. I'm going to sit here for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes and 5-10 minutes minimum and just answer questions if you guys have them. Again, they don't have to be related to what I covered. They can be other topics that you want to know a little bit about. They can be personal questions, which I may or may not answer, or whatnot like that.
All right, I just joined just a little bit late. Can you repeat everything?
Yeah, sure. So the way I'm going to repeat it, though, is in about an hour. It'll be on SoundCloud, and you can listen there, and everything I said will be repeated magically.
Okay, I was just joking around a little bit.
No, I know. I get to joke back, though.
Womp womp.
Yeah, no problem, Buckets. Also, feel free to reach out if you see me online. I'll answer questions anytime, even if I'm not teaching a class at the moment. Always happy to help.
Where are these classes? When are they scheduled, or where can we find the schedule for them?
The class schedule is a little bit of a non-existent thing. So I decided I was teaching this course today, and then I pinged the Dojo channel on Slack for it, and then I taught it. Sometimes people who are much more prepared and better than me will schedule in advance, and on the wiki there's actually a class schedule I'm going to be honest, there's not as many of them as there should be, and they're not as scheduled as they should be. So watch the Dojo Slack pings and watch recordings. That's the other thing. Even without the schedule, there are a ton of recordings. There's got to be 10 different Intro to Nullsec that I just gave classes on the recordings. Go to the Brave Dojo wiki, go to class recordings. There's tons. There's stuff on industry. There's stuff on flying tackle in fleets. There's stuff on D-scan. Almost everything you can think of has a class out there. Go look up the class recordings on the Dojo wiki. At this point, if we see a ping for a fleet up, what ships should we be keeping an eye out for that we will be useful as newer folks to assist in? Got it. So in almost all fleets, I don't want to say all because there are some very, very specific scenarios where it's not the case, but in almost every single fleet, as a new bro, you can always fly Tackle, Ewar, Logi. Even if you can't fly the mainline Doctrine ship. So Feroxes, I think, are the highest skill point Doctrine that we have that is frequently called for. You'll see Feroxes pinged out. I've been in Brave for a year and I can't fly the Ferox fits, just to give you an idea. But I still go on Ferox fleets when I can. Because in every Brave fleet, almost always, is welcome Logi, Tackle, Ewar. Oftentimes FCs will put those in a certain order, but at the end of the day, all three of those will be welcome. All three of them come in frigate form. So Tackle, there's a variety of stuff. Dojo has free Tackle ships they can hand out, free Ewar ships they can hand out, and maybe free Frig Logi? Graben, do you know? The question was, do you guys hand out free Logi fits? See ya, Buckets. Okay, cool. So Dojo has free frigates of all three varieties. So if you see a Stratop ping or a ping for a fleet go out that you want to join on, but you're like, wow, I can't fly that ship. That's okay. Bring Tackle, Ewar, or Logi, and you will all be welcome. Again, there's a very, very, very few number of exceptions, but for the most part, bring one of those three. And to be fair, on those exceptions too, the exception will be specified. Someone won't ping for a fleet that Ewar isn't welcome on and say no Ewar allowed. And not say that, right? If Ewar is not allowed on a fleet, they will say it in the ping. So if you see that go out, fly one of those three, fly all three of them over the course, and then pick which one you like the best and keep flying that one. Declan, that's a hard question to answer, just because not every fit is the same. So this goes into stuff that we shouldn't really get into today, but so sorry, for those listening to the recording, the question is, should we be able to fly the Nubro Tackle / Ewar Doctrines cap stable? So first of all, Ariana just said, which is accurate, there's very few fits that are truly cap stable, which is totally true. But at the end of the day, it also depends. Certain modules, like even between the different kinds of guns, some take capacitor cap to shoot, some don't. So for example, you might be able to fly the Minmatar specifically, don't take capacitor to use their guns. So you might be able to fly the Nubro Slasher fit, super cap free. Sorry, cap stable. But the Amar tackle ship is actually going to require cap to fire their guns. It's much less likely that you'll be able to fly those cap stable, just because more of the stuff in the fit takes cap. So it's kind of a hard question to answer. You should be able to fly them with a good cap life for that ship, which I know doesn't actually answer the question. But I believe in you. Fly until you're out of cap, wait, and then keep flying. It always depends on the ship. which I know isn't fun, but it always depends on the ship. Yeah, I mean, the bright side for what you just said, Declan, about messing up a lot and figuring it out that way is a lot of the new, like the E-War and the tackle stuff is really cheap. I mean, like, I think you can get a Vigil fit up for target painting for like 2 million ISK, which is, if it's not already cheap to you, it will be soon. That's not a lot, and you can fit up that. And there's always free ones from the dojo if that is expensive to you. So die a lot, learn every time you die, and fly free ships. I love the Vigil so much. That and the Maulus. So useful. Yeah. Would recommend, like I said, just hop on fleets. A lot of times you'll die quick. But that's okay. Just get another one and go rejoin the fleet. Or if you have to leave, then just leave. But fly in as many fleets as you can. That's really the only way to learn. There are like more in-depth fleet classes. We've been here for an hour and a half now. There's probably hour and a half long classes on just flying in a fleet out there, to be honest. So feel free to listen to some of those recordings. But at the end of the day, a lot of stuff in EVE comes down to practice, 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 practice. Also, feel free to fly like that E-War stuff in standing fleet. Hop out in a Vigil, kind of do the same thing. If there's a fight going on, I wouldn't wait as long in standing fleet, because in standing fleet, a lot of times stuff dies fast, and it's not as big of a deal if you die, because it's typically around GE where you can reship immediately. But show up like a little bit late, still keep your range, and you can fly E-War in standing fleet. People will love you for it. It's fantastic. Also, E-War is really good for mining salt. Not actually like mining via in-game mechanics, but enemy pilots typically will get mad at you in local chat if you fly E-War, which I personally think is fun.
Where is everyone asking you these questions at? I can't find the chat window on Slack.
We're in fleet chat. Sorry, there's a fleet up under Atocil.
Okay, I just hear you like responding to people. I'm just like, who the fuck is he talking to? Oh my god, he can read their minds.
That's actually it. It's all telepathy. Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Coil. I hope to see you flying around. It seems like questions are dying out, though, so I'm going to wrap up. I hope you all liked it. I hope it helped. One thing that I always ask for anytime I do a fleet or a class is please either Slack me, email me, Eve Convo me, publicly shame me in the lobby channel on Slack with your feedback. I thrive on negative feedback, not because I like being put down, but because it's the only way I know what I did, not necessarily wrong, but what I can improve on. So please give me feedback privately, publicly, I don't really care. Just give me your feedback so I can learn and grow. Other than that, have a great night, guys.